Welcome to Rewrite the Mother Code, the show where we can explore our inner mothers to actualize our greatest selves. Through interviews with incredible guests, live coaching sessions, and my own experiences, we're going to dive deep into embracing feminine values and reparenting ourselves. So be prepared to show up, hold space, and be mothered in a way that you never have before, but have always needed. It's time to rewrite the mother code. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Rewrite the Mother Code with me, Dr. Gertrude Lyons. I am excited about this week's solo episode because I'm going to combine an experience I had on my very recent, just a week ago, self-mothering fall equinox retreat and dive into the topic of joy. All right. So first, I'm going to share an experience I had on the weekend for myself personally around joy, and then dig into it a little bit more because it brought up more than I expected. And since then, my exploration of it has been really, really interesting. So I hope you find it so. And that this leads us all to exploring the topic, but more importantly, having more joy in our lives and cultivating joy. All right. So here's what happened. On the retreat, before we were going to go have a particular experience, I had us all draw a animal card. So, oracle decks where you can use them all sorts of ways. Like there's, full-on tarot decks, but oracle decks, I think, are a little bit different because they're just giving you a message in a particular moment or asking for something that you may need in that moment. I find them incredibly useful. I probably use them on a daily basis, but for sure on a weekly basis, just exploring and looking for insight. Okay, so that being said, we went around and everyone picked a card. And the card that I picked was hummingbird. So normally or historically, I would have been elated, joyful to pick the hummingbird card. It's a totem of mine. I have hummingbird necklaces. There's just something so captivating. And anytime I see one, it really does bring me joy. So I was surprised when I pulled the card and wasn't as joyful as I usually am. Because everybody else was like, whoa, you got the hummingbird, like that's your totem, and how cool that you pulled it. And I just kind of was curious, and I didn't say anything in the moment, but I realized as I sat with it a little bit that I was disappointed. I was like, oh, I don't know. We were in such a powerful space on the weekend and on the retreat. So funny. I felt like I should graduate from joy, right? Like I should, sure. As if I have joy handled. And I wanted a card like the jaguar, or the leopard. I don't know, something that was really like assertive and powerful and has that, I don't know, that mysterious kind of dark, almost powerful nature to it. So I sat with that a little bit. And when we went into this experience, I asked for support around this, like what's going on with, me around joy and why I might not be excited about pulling this card. And the answer, so to speak, that came to me here's what I thought about, and I'm going to call it an answer. I started thinking about joy and experiences I've had of it. And, I'm not going to say few and far between, but it doesn't fill my day, so to speak. And then I started thinking about my family of origin, the family I grew up with, and my parents, and when or if I ever saw them really express joy. And I was really sad. I got really sad thinking about really not much of anything coming up in that regard. Now I could picture us, there was 4 of us. I have a brother and my mom and dad, but with some extended family playing crazy eights, playing cards and laughing and being silly and having fun. but that was the closest memory I could come. I mean, Christmas would have some joy, but it was always a little, it also had other edges to it. But I didn't see my parents enjoying Christmas. I didn't see them joy filled at some of these times. They gave us some wonderful, joy filled experiences, but to see them experience joy. And then I started thinking about my extended family, my grandparents on my mother's side, who I just love dearly, and even tear up thinking about how special they are to me and how close I felt to them. But when I stood back and thought about picturing them in any kind of experience having joy or, spontaneous laughter or, a belly laugh or like, wow, like, look at that. And or something happening that they shared their joy around it, couldn't find it. Couldn't find it there. Couldn't find it when I looked at my dad's side of the family. Now, that side of the family was more creative. My aunts, at least two of them danced. I think all of them played a musical instrument. So they had like ways to kind of connect with joy, but they ended up getting distorted in a way because two of my aunts, really good dancers, went to Las Vegas and became, dancers in Las Vegas, showgirls. And I see pictures of them in these beautiful costumes and outfits. But then I'm also aware, that, that life took them into drugs and alcohol and some pretty definitely not joy-filled situations that I've heard about. So there was that, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is a way bigger job. And maybe that was the heaviness I felt with pulling the card and being with joy and looking at my own life, but looking at, what does it really take? What is this emotion of joy? Because it's certainly, I very much orient to, and I have over many years oriented to 5 primary emotions: fear, hurt, anger, sadness, and joy. And joy gets the least attention. It's kind of this like, oh, okay, joy is important, but let's just focus on fear, hurt, and anger, right? And let's get a handle on those. Because I really do believe we need to feel all of our emotions, that without feeling our sadness or our hurt or even our fear, anger, our capacity or our openness to feel pure joy is limited. So that I definitely believe. But like, what's going on, with this joy thing? And I took on in that moment, I don't know, my own personal assignment to dig in and explore joy more and really look at this emotion. And so I did one of the things I do as a researcher is like, let's see what studies there are. What's in the academic literature around the emotion of joy, and found some really interesting and for me, expansive thinking. Sometimes, you think about academics studying something and, oh boy, studying joy is going to just dampen the whole thing. But it really brought to light. And I just want to take a couple minutes and share some of that. And then, we'll close by looking at like, how do we bring more joy into our lives, and what would it mean to do that? And that's what, where I've been and what I've been doing. So it turns out that joy has been one of the least studied human emotions. And this is despite the fact that it's on everyone's list of basic or primary emotions. And in fact, if awards were given for the emotion most neglected by psychologists, joy would surely be among the contenders. It is the last major unexplored positive emotion. So, there's a whole field in psychology, positive psychology. And, as I read some of this, it's very much, joy is very much usurped, overshadowed by happiness. There's a lot of happiness studies. And so I kind of wanted to look at, what are some distinctions? And this is something, as much as I'm going to share in the Rewrite the Mother Code paradigm, what I'm looking to do here for myself is explore, what does culture tell us about this emotion? What did our family, like I was exploring the codes that were written around joy. So if I were to go back and look at, what I shared about my family and the lack of it, I could read into that and say, okay, well, joy it's anything from joy isn't okay. Joy isn't allowed. It happens, to few people. And, it's best to just kind of keep things under wraps, keep all of our emotions, but joy for sure. Like I remember my dad, saying things like when I was just being a kid, right? And I think as kids, we have way more access, stop that giggling, quiet down. I'm watching the news, and we all know that the news is filled with anything but joy. So yeah, let's not, bring some joy into the picture. So exploring it from our family perspective and then exploring it in culture. And I think, hearing this, that it's the least explored. So, what's going on about this? And why I'm saying this is like, no matter what I say about it or what we're going to explore, it's yours to decide, what does joy mean to you? What does happiness? Is it important to make this distinction? How would having more joy in your life, what would it bring to you, specifically, and how do you want to play with it? So this particular theorist I thought was helpful to make the distinction between happiness and joy, so we can have some distinctions. So she defines happiness as referring to a general sense of well-being and a cognitive evaluation of one's life as a whole. So this would mean like that happiness would correspond to a broader and more cognitive evaluation of one's life. So it's kind of more in our head, more how we think about it. Happiness it's a little more generalized, right? And whereas joy, it's a momentary emotion, right? So I don't think of happiness so much as an emotion. And I like this definition because it's more of a general sense of well-being. It's like it's a state. It's a, something that is, kind of we have it or we don't, is sort of thing. So I'm going to keep exploring that. Hi, I'm so excited to share with you my 2024 Spring Equinox Self-Mothering Retreat that's happening this March 2024. And I would love for you not only to consider it, but to attend. But in considering it, hey, just knowing that you would be leaving cold weather, if that's the space that you're in, and coming down to just magnificently beautiful, warm, nourishing place of 𝐒𝐡𝐤, Mexico. 𝐒𝐡𝐤 meaning land of the goddess women, and coming to really take time for yourself. Okay. And that I am learning more and more isn't just a nice thing to do or something extravagant or something selfish. It's essential. And I really want you to take it seriously, to consider, just think about what would it take for me to go. It's a 5.5-day retreat, getting from where you are, getting there, landing there, and then being in a space that is all about you. It's all about nourishing you. It's all about tuning into you, using everything around us, the nature, the food, the beautiful people, the rituals, ceremonies. I bring it, we really bring it. And we go deeper and deeper as the days go on, and we release, we let go, we bring in what is nourishing, what is empowering, what is that space of just really divine feminine energy. And we do it in the community of women. It's not for everyone. I will be honest, if the idea of leaving and not making it work, or it's just too hard, not for you. If the idea of, spending that amount of time inwardly focused and going to that level of self-awareness doesn't sound like something you're willing to do or put the time and energy into, then it's not for you. And it's good to know that, right? So this is for people who are serious about what it means to mother themselves, what it means to take time for ourselves, and that gift and what that gift can bring to us. It was originally right after my fall retreat. It filled right up. But now some people, it turns out, are not able to come. So I do have a handful of openings. And if you're listening to this and you're willing to take that step, please reach out to me. We can do a discovery call, or you can put a deposit down. I would love that. And you can do that by going to my website, www.drgertrudelyons, DrGertrudelYons.com. Go to events, and there you go. It'll all be there. There's a beautiful page there for you to explore. I look forward to hearing from you and then seeing you on my spring retreat. So joy, a momentary emotion. Let's think of some joy, like it's spontaneous, right? Like it's like, whoa, kind of catches us by surprise. Now, I do think we'll talk about how we can evoke joy or bring joy into our life, but oftentimes it's somewhat unexpected, right? Like we may be watching a sunset, but then suddenly it like bursts into color and it's like, ah, that I think whenever we have that or awe feeling, joy is the emotion connected to that. And, some others look at it as like the emotion that makes life worth living. It makes life worth living in the moment because it resonates with our core identity. And this is where, they'll start looking at joy related to our core values, who we really are, what matters to us, and something touches it. And boom, some examples of a joy eliciting situation, can include, just so we can get a picture of this and you can relate, watching if you have kids or watching kids playing kindly with each other, having an otherwise unexceptional meal with your family, running in a field on a sunny spring day, like I said, having an emotion, watching fireworks, when you see people's faces and the ooh and the ah, right? I want to start kind of picturing and I can think of it in my family of creation now, and this was something that came up when I was thinking about how bereft my upbringing was of joy in my family atmosphere, and how I quickly learned, tamp it down, all that. And I also couldn't picture most of my family, except the aunts that danced on stage, just dancing, spontaneously dancing. And I remember a moment turning on music when our kids were little, and just us all just jumping up and spontaneously dancing. And it really hit me. It's like, wow, this is something I never did in my upbringing, but here it is. And I felt just awash with joy. And when I looked, there were several instances I could think of with my family. Movement was involved, right? Like there was another time we went into a parking lot with another family. We got out of our cars, cranked up our car radios, and danced in the parking lot. And, once you kind of get over like, oh my gosh, is somebody going to see us? And there's this embarrassment, and really turned ourselves over to flow in that dance. It's a memory that still, moves me when I think about it, and I can picture it, and it brings joy to me, even in the recollection of it. And then the other one, movement, and realizing how much movement is involved here. And I think dance is a big way for us to connect with joy. Was after one of my daughter's soccer games, and we just hung out for a while and then kicked the ball around on the soccer field on this beautiful, sunny, bright day. And this just wasn't something we normally did, where just to have us together, being silly, playing, kicking. There was usually, I think, another distinction a therapist or one of the theorists makes is happiness can be a bit more goal oriented, right? Like we're happy when we achieve something, like we achieve a goal where, I didn't have a goal to, yes, I might say like, I'd love to have more spontaneous joy in my family, but I didn't have a goal to, set out to, go to a soccer field and have, I think intention is involved with it, but it's not so goal oriented. And I think that's something for us to consider. We'll talk about how every emotion has a function, right? And they serve a function in our lives, and, even our sadness, our anger. And I won't go into all of those and their function, but they all have a function. And one theorist says her hypothesis is that joy signals opportunities to understand ourselves better. That one of the functions is to understand, like I have been understanding and looking at this, and in those moments that, wow, like this togetherness with my family in movement, in spontaneity, helps me know myself and how that matters to me. We're letting go of petty concerns, and it can serve to inform us about our core identity and our values. I valued this time together. It motivates us to invest energy in what truly matters to us. I love all of that. So I hope this is, resonating with you, and it's It's allowing you to think about joy in, a way that makes a difference to you. And, I just want to say a few more things that were striking me about joy. And then we'll kind of close up looking at like how we can be with this more in our life and how we can bring more joy. So by giving expression to our ecstatic nature, joy points, and right now I'm going to read something from one of these articles. Joy points beyond itself to something deeply true about human nature and purpose. In true joy, our souls are opened, giving our existence a certain fluidity, a sense of easiness. By kindling a science of joy, see, because a lot of these theorists, are pointing out why isn't this emotion studied more? We're really missing out, and our culture is so bereft of joy in so many ways. The importance of this is so important. So it sounds kind of funny to me, like the science of joy, but I love it. I love that this is happening and that theorists are starting to take notice and really dig into it. So by kindling a science of joy, we hope also to raise public consciousness about the meaning and significance of joy as a foundational element of the good life, the pursuit of which is not exhausted by a nearly exclusive preoccupation with happiness in contemporary culture, like I talked about, right? Nor in the science or practice of positive psychology. We simply cannot understand what it means to be human unless we understand joy. Wow, that's really powerful, right? We cannot understand what it means to be human unless we understand joy. Where, when, and how it occurs, how it changes our lives, and how it is sustained or thwarted. Wow. Okay. So this joy thing and me, poo-pooing, picking the hummingbird card, which, when you look in general, or you look up the meaning of hummingbird and that and in this one book, it is joy. It's sweetness of life, love, nature, awe, flowers, building or redecorating, infinity, rainbow. Just I I follow on Instagram someone who, I don't have it in front of me. I'll look for it and put it in the show notes, that just, puts videos and pictures of hummingbirds, and it brings me joy every time. Just the miraculousness of them, those tiny little wings beating so fast and in a figure eight of infinity. So, I don't think having joy connected with it for no reason, there's really something behind this. So for me, I've been aware since being with this and from the weekend, and so much more came out, and I can't wait to talk even more about the retreat. But this is an example of it, right? Like I didn't go in there. Oh, I did. I went in saying I want to explore, more of having pleasure and, and really finding out like what turns me on and where do I find pleasure and cultivate more of it. And, joy right there, right? Joy and pleasure and putting those two together. I mean, I felt joy just in reading, what that others were studying it and reading that paragraph that I just read. And since I've been back, people asked how the retreat, how'd your retreat go? How was it? And historically, I would have said, oh, it was good. I don't know. People said they really liked it. They got a ton out of it. But, I'm the facilitator, so it's hard for me to say for sure. It's like, no, it rocked. It was fucking awesome. I loved it. And someone asked me, so 1 in 10, how was the weekend? I'm like 10, and yelled it out loud. And this is very uncomfortable for me too, because that's bragging. That's, but it's also letting my joy, and I think that honors the weekend more than me dimming it some or, trying to be humble about it. I could go on and on about gratitude of what it, how many people and everyone that contributed to making the weekend the success that it was. But I don't need to limit my joy and, what I experience personally, just as a facilitator, but more so as a facilitator participant, and the joy and seeing the joy that came and being in community with these women and having them experience and seeing them have breakthroughs. That brought me a lot of joy. And I feel immensely grateful. And, if we look at how it it helps us find out about ourselves. Like, I get a lot of joy out of bringing experiences to people that are meaningful. To have the experiences myself that are meaningful and get meaning from them, and then to share that brings me incredible joy. I knew that this was something that I wanted to kind of get on and talk about and explore. So first of all, like, close your eyes for a moment and think about a time that you felt joy, right? Not just the state of happiness, but joy. And we'll even distinguish it from awe, from gratitude, from, those, but I think they all do kind of combine and work as a mix. But just that momentary spontaneous, like, wow, joy. And, let yourself think about times that you've had it. How can I bring more of it? Where am I dampening it? Like the example I just gave, where am I, it was good or it was okay. And catching ourselves and saying, like, no, it was awesome. It rocked. And what were those moments, within it, because I may be having an experience that is happiness, and then how do I sustain it? How do I, in a moment where I'm feeling that joy, I think to savor it. There's studies on savoring these experiences for ourselves to make them last a little longer. But then, just as I did earlier, when I brought to memory and really let myself be in the moment of that memory of times I felt joy, I'm feeling joy again. So I hope this gives you a pathway to it, because there's a lot we need to rewrite around joy. There's a lot of misconceptions around it, a lot of places where we don't maybe feel deserving of it. So we want to open that space, rewrite the mother code. I think as people, as women, as mothers, where do we find those moments of joy in our mothering? Because they're there, but we really have to look for them, and we have to, be in touch with ourselves and be in touch with all of our emotions in order to, really give ourselves the space and opening to have them. So here I am wishing you moments of joy today and throughout your days. And until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. Well, I want to thank you for listening to this week's episode. And I also really want to invite you to join my mailing list. All right. You can do that by going to my website, www.Gertrude, Gertrude Lyons, Lyons.com. And there'll be a pop-up. There'll be ways you'll see to join my mailing list, join my newsletter list, because after I just shared about all this joy, I am actually already very joy-filled thinking about my next retreat, which is in the spring. And I'm going to be opening up spaces for that in the very near future. So I want you to know about it. And I want you to have the opportunity, to join in if that is something that is sparking you, or, you have any inkling of doing that. I want to make sure you have all the information. So I didn't want to miss this opportunity to have you. And it brings me joy every time someone adds to it, and I get the opportunity to have you in my atmosphere, be in yours, and to have us all learning, growing, and sharing together. Again, www.drgertrudelyons.com and sign up for my newsletter. Yay! Thank you so much for choosing yourself and taking the time to listen to this podcast. As always, please rate, review, and subscribe to Rewrite the Mother Code. It helps other people who need this message, aka all women, well, actually everybody, men included, to find it. I'm honored to have you on this journey in mothering yourself. Remember, change is uncomfortable, but it's beautiful, and it starts with us. And if you can't wait until next week's episode, follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Dr. Gertrude Lyons, or at my website, drgertrudelyons.com, and sign up for my newsletter. I'll see you next time.